The cargo bay smelled like decay and fuel. Dr. Alex Rivers pulled the scanner from her belt and swept it across the abandoned shipping container. Her assistant had reported strange sounds coming from inside, and station protocol demanded investigation. 3 days ago, a smuggler ship had docked at Epsilon 7, dropped its cargo, and vanished before customs could board. Now Alex had to sort through the mess. She keyed the container lock. The door hissed open, releasing a wave of stench that made her step back. Inside, among scattered crates and spoiled food, something moved. Alex raised her light and froze. Huddled in the corner was a ravager cub. Every species in the galaxy knew about ravagers. They were nightmares made flesh, apex predators from a death world no one visited anymore. Adults stood 3 meters tall, covered in armored scales with jaws that could crush steel. They hunted in packs and showed no mercy. Colonies had been wiped out when ravagers escaped containment. The Galactic Council had banned their transport decades ago. This one was tiny, barely the size of a large dog. Its scales were dull gray instead of the glossy black of healthy ravagers. Ribs showed through its sides. One of its 6 legs dragged uselessly. The cub's eyes, usually bright yellow, were clouded and dim. It made a weak sound, somewhere between a whimper and a growl. Alex knew what she was supposed to do. Protocol was clear. Dangerous species found abandoned were to be euthanized immediately. She reached for her communicator to call security, but hesitated. The cub wasn't attacking. It was dying. She knelt down slowly. The cub tried to bare its teeth, but the threat was hollow. It could barely lift its head. Alex had spent 15 years studying alien biology. She recognized starvation when she saw it. This creature had been locked in here without food or water, left to die in the dark. "Easy," Alex said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you." The cub's eyes tracked her movement as she pulled out a ration bar from her pack. She broke off a piece and tossed it forward. The cub sniffed, then lunged at the food with desperate hunger. Alex tossed another piece, then another. She kept her distance, letting the creature eat. Her communicator buzzed. Security Chief Dante's gruff voice crackled through. "Doc, we got reports of something in Cargo Bay 12. You need backup?" Alex looked at the cub. It had finished the ration bar and was watching her with slightly clearer eyes. "No," she said. "Just a false alarm." "I'll file the report." She cut the connection before Dante could respond. This was stupid. This was dangerous. This violated every regulation in the station handbook. Alex didn't care. She had watched too many creatures die because bureaucrats were afraid. Not this time. Getting the cub to her lab was the hard part. Alex had to bribe a cargo handler to look the other way and use a medical transport pod normally reserved for quarantine cases. She listed the contents as biological samples. Technically true, if misleading. Her lab occupied a corner of the station's research wing. It was small but well-equipped with examination tables, medical scanners, and holding cells for specimen observation. Alex sealed the door and helped the cub onto a padded table. It was too weak to resist. The scan results were grim. Severe malnutrition, dehydration, multiple infections, and a fractured rear leg that had healed badly. The cub was maybe 4 months old and should have weighed 40 kilos. It barely made 25. Another day or two in that container and it would have died. Alex started treatment. Fluids first, pumped through an IV line. Antibiotics for the infections. Nutrient paste delivered through a feeding tube because the cub's digestive system couldn't handle solid food yet. She splinted the damaged leg properly, knowing it would never be perfect but hoping to restore some function. The cub slept through most of it, too exhausted to fight. Alex set up a heated pad and covered it with blankets. She sat in her chair and watched the creature breathe, wondering what she had just done. Word spread fast on a space station. By the next morning, Alex had visitors. Commander Ford from Station Administration arrived with 2 armed guards. She was a tall woman with iron-gray hair and no patience for excuses. "I received a report that you're harboring an illegal specimen," Ford said, looking past Alex into the lab. The cub was visible through the transparent holding cell, curled up asleep. "A ravager, Doctor. Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Saved its life," Alex said calmly. "Violated Galactic Council regulations," Ford corrected. "These creatures are classified as extreme threats. They cannot be kept in civilian facilities. I'm ordering immediate termination." "No," Ford's expression hardened. "That wasn't a request." "The cub is under medical quarantine," Alex said. "According to Station Charter Section 47, I have authority over all biological specimens during active treatment. Interfering with medical care is a violation of that charter. Don't quote regulations at me, doctor. Then don't try to kill my patient. They stared at each other. Ford finally nodded to her guards. Watch this lab. Nothing leaves without my authorization. Doctor, you have 1 week to stabilize that thing. Then it goes to the council for disposal. After they left, Alex slumped against her desk. 1 week. She looked at the sleeping cub. Its breathing was already stronger. The fluids and medicine were working. I'm going to need a name for you, Alex said quietly. The cub's ear twitched at her voice. How about Storm? You came in like a storm into my life, Storm. It seemed to fit. Alex pulled up her computer and began researching everything she could find about ravagers. If she only had 1 week, she needed to learn fast. The galaxy thought these creatures were monsters. Maybe they were. But maybe, just maybe, nobody had ever tried treating them like anything else. Outside the lab, aliens passed by and stared through the window. Some laughed. Humans were known for being soft, for trying to befriend anything. They called it foolishness. They called it weakness. They would learn otherwise. 6 months changed everything. Storm had transformed from a dying cub into something that made station security nervous. Alex measured her progress daily, watching the numbers climb. 50 kilos, 70, 90. The little creature that once fit on an examination table now stood as tall as Alex's waist. Her scales gleaming black and healthy, her 6 legs strong and coordinated. The 1 week deadline had come and gone. Commander Ford had tried to enforce the termination order, but Storm had been too sick to move. Then there were complications. Recovery took time. Alex filed reports, submitted documentation, and used every bureaucratic trick she knew to delay. Eventually, Ford stopped coming. The problem was easier to ignore than to solve, but Storm couldn't be ignored anymore. She ate 30 kilos of protein every week. Her claws scratched grooves in the metal floor. When she stretched, her spine ridges brushed the ceiling. The other researchers had relocated to different labs, unwilling to work near a growing predator. Alex didn't care what they thought. Every morning she entered the lab to find Storm waiting at the door, tail swishing in greeting. The Ravager had learned her schedule, recognized her footsteps, knew the sound of her voice. They had developed routines. Feeding time at 0700 hours, medical checkup at 900, training exercises at 1100. The training was Alex's own idea. She had studied Earth animals for years before joining the xenobiology program. Dogs, horses, dolphins, all had been trained using positive reinforcement. Reward good behavior, ignore bad behavior, never use punishment. The galaxy thought she was crazy for applying those methods to a Ravager. Storm proved them wrong. She learned to sit on command, to stay, to come when called. Alex used hand signals because Storm's hearing range was different from humans. Open palm meant stop, closed fist meant come, finger point meant go. Storm absorbed every lesson with startling intelligence. Your pet is getting big, a voice said from the doorway. Alex turned to find Security Chief Dante watching through the reinforced window. He was a member of the Dracon species, 7 feet of muscle and attitude with red scales and a perpetual scowl. He had been the loudest voice calling for Storm's termination. She's not a pet, Alex said. She's a research subject. She's a ticking bomb. Dante crossed his arms. I've fought Ravagers before, Doc. 3 of them wiped out my squad on a colony defense mission. We lost 12 soldiers before we brought them down. That thing in there will do the same when it gets loose. Storm isn't going to get loose, that they all get loose eventually. Dante tapped the window. Storm's head snapped toward the sound, her eyes focusing on him. See that? Predator instinct. She's calculating whether she can reach me through the glass. She's curious, Alex corrected. There's a difference. Dante shook his head. You humans are all the same. You see teeth and claws and think you can make friends with it. Your species tried to domesticate everything on your home planet. Worked great until something ate you. We're still here, Alex pointed out, barely. Dante walked away, leaving Alex alone with Storm. The incident with the cargo drone happened 3 weeks later. Alex was running Storm through exercises in a sealed training area. It was a large room, empty except for obstacles and climbing structures. Storm loved it, bounding from platform to platform with the grace of a creature built for hunting. Alex worked the control panel, adjusting the obstacles' positions, when she heard something wrong. A mechanical whine growing louder, she looked up just as a maintenance drone dropped from the ceiling access shaft, its anti-gravity field flickering and sparking. The machine was out of control, spinning wildly, heading straight for her. Alex raised her arms instinctively, knowing it wouldn't help. 200 kilos of metal would crush her, but the impact never came. Storm hit the drone mid-air, her jaws clamping onto its housing. They crashed together onto the floor. The drone's rotors screamed, one of them slicing a gash across Storm's shoulder. She didn't let go. Her claws tore through metal plating, ripping into the drone's power core. Sparks flew, then silence. Alex stood frozen, her heart hammering. Storm released the destroyed drone and turned toward her, blood dripping from the shoulder wound. The Ravager made a sound, a deep rumble in her chest. Checking if Alex was okay. "I'm fine," Alex whispered. "You saved me." She knelt down, ignoring every safety protocol, and examined the wound. It was shallow, already clotting. Storm held perfectly still while Alex cleaned and bandaged it. No aggression, no panic. Just trust. The station's governing board reviewed the incident footage. 12 species representatives sat in judgment, their holograms flickering in the council chamber. Alex stood in the center, defending her decision to keep Storm. Commander Ford presented the case for termination. Dante supported her. "The Ravager displayed protective behavior," Alex argued. "That proves she's capable of controlled aggression. She could have attacked me during treatment. Instead, she held still. She's growing larger every day," Ford countered. "Eventually, she'll be too dangerous to contain. We should act now before someone dies." A representative from the Vaughn Collective, a species that resembled floating jellyfish, spoke up. "The human makes a point. If the Ravager can be trained, it could be valuable. Perhaps we should allow the experiment to continue." "Experiment?" Dante slammed his fist on the table. "This isn't a lab. We have civilians here, families, children. One mistake and that thing tears through the station." The debate went on for hours. Alex watched the representatives argue, knowing the decision was political rather than practical. Some species wanted to study Storm. Others wanted her dead. A few didn't care either way. The vote was close, 7-5. Storm could stay, but under strict conditions. Enhanced containment. Daily inspections. Any sign of aggression would trigger immediate termination. Alex accepted the terms. She had no choice. That night she sat in the lab with Storm, running her hand along the Ravager's scaled neck. Storm's eyes were half closed, content. "They think you're a monster," Alex said quietly. "They think I'm crazy for believing in you." Storm's tail curled around Alex's leg. Not restraining, just touching. "Contact between pack members will prove them wrong," Alex promised. "We'll show them what you really are." Through the lab window, aliens walked past and whispered. The human and her predator. Some made jokes. Others placed bets on how long before Storm killed her keeper. They didn't understand. They saw teeth and claws and assumed violence. They had never seen Storm sleep with her head on Alex's lap. They had never watched her learn, play, and grow. They didn't know that every night, when the lab lights dimmed, Storm positioned herself between Alex and the door. Guarding, protecting, the galaxy would learn. Alex would make sure of it. But first, Storm needed to grow stronger, smarter, more controlled. The real test was coming, though Alex didn't know it yet. And when it arrived, everyone would see exactly what a human could raise from an abandoned cub. The delegation arrived without warning. 3 Ravagers, full-grown and terrifying, walked through Epsilon 7's docking bay surrounded by a security escort of 20 armed soldiers. Station residents scattered, pressing themselves against walls, afraid to be anywhere near the predators. Alex received the summons while reviewing Storm's latest medical data. Commander Ford delivered the news personally. "They've come for the cub," Ford said. "Representatives from the Ravager homeworld. They're demanding we turn her over immediately." Alex's stomach dropped. "On what grounds?" "They claim you've violated their species' cultural rights. Ravagers raise their young in traditional ways. They say Storm has been corrupted by human interference. Storm was dying. They abandoned her." Try explaining that to them. The meeting took place in the station's largest conference room. The 3 Ravagers filled half the space, their massive forms making the furniture look like toys. Their scales were marked with scars and battle patterns. These were warriors, not scientists or diplomats. The leader's name was Rask. He spoke through a translation device, his actual voice a series of growls and clicks. "We have come for the stolen cub," Rask said. She belongs with her own kind, not with a soft skin who understands nothing of our ways. Alex sat across from him, trying not to show fear. Storm was in the holding area nearby, sedated for safety during the meeting. Storm wasn't stolen. She was abandoned in a cargo container and left to die. I saved her life. You have made her weak. Rask's lips pulled back, showing rows of serrated teeth. Ravagers are born in blood and raised in strength. The weak die. This is our way. You have interfered with natural selection. Natural selection doesn't include being locked in a box without food. Another Ravager, smaller but no less dangerous, leaned forward. Her name was Tira. The cub should have died. That she survived means nothing if she has lost her edge. You have taught her to obey humans. This is disgrace. I've taught her to think, Alex shot back. To control her instincts. To be more than just a killing machine. Rask slammed his clawed hand on the table, cracking the surface. Ravagers are not machines. We are warriors, hunters, the finest predators in the galaxy. What have you made of this cub? A pet, a toy? I've made her capable of choice. Silence fell. The third Ravager, an older male named Greth, studied Alex with ancient yellow eyes. Interesting words from a human. You claim the cub can choose, very well. Let her choose. What do you mean? Alex asked. We propose a trial, Greth said. The traditional Ravager coming-of-age challenges. 3 tests of skill, strength, and survival. If the cub succeeds, we acknowledge your methods have worth. If she fails, she returns with us for proper training. And if I refuse? Then we take her anyway. The Galactic Council recognizes our right to reclaim members of our species. Rask showed his teeth again. The human cannot stop us. Alex wanted to argue, to fight, but she saw the truth in their eyes. They had the law on their side. Storm would be taken, unless she proved herself. What are the trials? Alex asked. First, the hunt. The cub must track and take down prey using only her natural abilities. Second, the gauntlet. She must navigate a combat course designed to test speed, strength, and tactical thinking. Third, the challenge. She must face another Ravager in ritual combat. That's suicide. Storm is still young. She's not fully grown. She is 9 months old, Tira said. Old enough to hunt. Old enough to fight. If she cannot survive the trials, she is not worthy of our species. Commander Ford, who had been silent until now, spoke up. If we agree to this, we need assurances. The trials will be monitored. No interference from either side. And if Storm succeeds, you leave her here. Rask considered this. Acceptable. But we add one condition. The human cannot help during the trials. The cub succeeds or fails alone. Alex's heart sank, but she nodded. She had no choice. They prepared the arena over 3 days. The station's cargo bay was converted into a testing ground, divided into 3 sections. For the hunt, they released a crawl beast, a herbivore known for its defensive capabilities and thick hide. Storm would need to bring it down without assistance. Alex spent every moment with Storm before the trials began. She reviewed hand signals, reinforced training, and tried to prepare her for what was coming. But Storm seemed confused. She had never hunted live prey. Every meal had been provided. Now Alex was asking her to kill. I know this is hard, Alex said, running her hand along Storm's neck. But you need to do this. You need to show them what you are. Storm rumbled, pressing against Alex's side. Trust. She trusted Alex completely. The trials began at dawn. Half the station gathered to watch through protective barriers. The Ravager delegation observed from an elevated platform. Alex stood with Commander Ford and Dante, her hands clenched into fists. The crawl beast was released into the hunting ground. It was a massive creature, 2 meters tall with armored plates and sharp horns. Storm entered from the opposite side. For a moment, she just stood there assessing. She doesn't know what to do, Tira said dismissively. The cub has forgotten how to hunt, but Storm moved. Not in a straight charge like wild Ravagers would do, but circling, patient. Alex recognized the behavior. Storm was using tactics she had learned during their training exercises. Evaluate the target, find the weakness. Wait for the opening. The crawl beast charged. Storm dodged far faster than her size suggested. She didn't counterattack. Instead, she kept moving, forcing the beast to turn to tire itself. The crawl beast grew frustrated, charging again and again. Storm avoided every attack, then she struck. The crawl beast stumbled during a turn, its weight working against it. Storm was on it instantly, her jaws finding the soft tissue behind the foreleg. The beast went down. It was over in seconds, the watching crowd murmured. Even the ravagers looked surprised. Storm hadn't fought like a typical ravager. She had been smarter. Rask's eyes narrowed. The cub has skill, but the hunt is only the first trial. The gauntlet will be different. Alex allowed herself a moment of hope. Storm had succeeded, but 2 trials remained, and they would be harder. She caught Storm's eye across the arena. The ravager's gaze was steady. She was ready. The galaxy had laughed at the idea of a human raising a predator. Now they watched in silence, beginning to understand. Storm wasn't weak. She was something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. And the hardest challenges were still ahead. Storm circled the gauntlet course, her breathing steady despite the heat. The second trial had been brutal. Obstacles designed to test strength and agility. Moving platforms over electrified floors. Narrow passages that forced her to control her bulk. She had completed it faster than any Ravager cub on record. Rask had said nothing, but his silence spoke volumes. Now the final trial approached. Ritual combat. Storm would face Tira, the smaller but experienced Ravager from the delegation. Alex had watched the preparations with growing dread. Tira was a warrior, battle-scarred and vicious. Storm was 9 months old and had never fought another Ravager. But that fight would have to wait. Alarms blared across the station just as Storm exited the gauntlet course. Hull breach in docking Sector 7. Commander Ford's voice crackled over the intercom. All security personnel report immediately. This is not a drill. Dante grabbed his weapon and ran. The Ravager delegation looked toward the exits, bodies tensed. Alex moved toward Storm, but Ford caught her arm. Stay in the arena. It's the safest place right now. What's happening? Pirates. They hit our outer defenses during the trials. Everyone was watching Storm. We didn't see them coming. The station shuddered. Explosions echoed through the walls. Lights flickered. Alex's communicator lit up with emergency broadcasts. The pirate fleet consisted of 5 ships, heavily armed and coordinated. They had breached the main habitat ring and were pushing toward the commercial district. Station security was falling back, outnumbered and outgunned. We need to evacuate this section, Ford said. Get everyone out of the arena and into the emergency shelters. The crowd panicked. Hundreds of aliens pushed toward the exits, but the corridors were clogged. Families with children, elderly individuals, injured workers from the earlier explosions. They all bottled up in the narrow passages. Through the viewport, Alex could see the pirate ships docking directly with the station. Boarding parties would be inside within minutes. Rask and his delegation moved toward their own ship. Tira paused, looking at Storm still in the arena. The trials are postponed. We will return when the danger passes. You're leaving? Alex stared at them. There are civilians trapped here. Not our concern. We came for the cub, not to fight your battles. Rask turned away. Greth, the older Ravager, lingered a moment. Your species has a saying. Something about ships and rats. I believe this is appropriate. He followed the others. Alex watched them go, disgusted. Then she looked at the trapped civilians. Parents held children close. The elderly struggled to move through the press of bodies. Station security was focused on the main threat, leaving this section undefended. The arena had 4 exits. Only the main one led to the evacuation route. The other 3 connected to maintenance corridors and storage areas, dead ends that would trap anyone who went that way. Already, some of the crowd was pushing toward those secondary exits in panic. Storm padded over to Alex, her head level with Alex's chest now. The Ravager sensed the danger, her body tense and ready. Alex saw something in Storm's eyes. A question. What do we do? Explosions grew closer. Smoke drifted through the air vents. Alex pulled up her communicator and accessed the station's security feed. The pirate boarding parties were organized and ruthless. They wore mixed armor, a coalition of different species united by greed and violence. They were hurting civilians, taking hostages, killing anyone who resisted. The feed showed them moving through the commercial district, only 3 corridors away from the arena section. They would be here in minutes. Station security was pinned down, unable to help. The trapped civilians would be caught between the pirates and the locked emergency doors that refused to open during the malfunction. Alex made her decision. She pulled up the arena control panel and locked the main exit. The crowd shouted in confusion and fear. Alex ignored them. She activated the secondary exits instead, the ones leading to the maintenance corridors. Listen to me, she called out. The main exit is compromised. Pirates are coming that way. I'm opening alternate routes. Follow the maintenance corridors to Section 9. There's an emergency shelter there. Those corridors don't go to Section 9, someone shouted. They're dead ends, not anymore. I'm overriding the security locks. Trust me, the crowd hesitated. Then more explosions shook the station, closer now. They started moving toward the secondary exits. Alex watched them go, hoping she was right about the corridor connections. She had studied the station's layout for months. The maintenance passages connected to the emergency systems. They had to. Storm stayed beside her, watching the main exit. Alex heard sounds from beyond the door, shouts, weapon fire. The pirates were here, Storm, Alex said quietly. She made the hand signal for stay. We need to give them time. The civilians need to reach the shelter. Storm's tail lashed. She understood. Alex pulled an emergency barricade control and sealed the secondary exits behind the fleeing civilians. Now it was just her and Storm in the arena, with pirates about to breach the main entrance. The door exploded inward. 5 pirates entered, weapons drawn. They were a mixed group, 2 Dracon deserters, a Vaughn with cybernetic implants, and 2 species Alex didn't recognize. Their leader, a scarred Dracon with burned scales, swept his weapon across the empty arena. Scan shows life signs, he growled. Where are the civilians? Alex stood in the center of the arena. Storm was beside her, low and coiled. The pirates noticed the ravager and stepped back. Just a kid and her pet. One of them laughed. Boss, should we kill them or take them for ransom? The leader studied Storm. That's a ravager. Young one, but still dangerous. Kill it first, then grab the human. They raised their weapons. Alex gave the signal. Open palm, stop. Then closed fist, protect. Storm exploded forward. She moved faster than anything her size should move, closing the distance before the pirates could fire. Her jaws clamped on the first pirate's weapon arm, crushing it. Her tail whipped around, knocking another pirate off his feet. She was a blur of black scales and controlled fury. Alex ran for cover behind the arena obstacles. The pirates fired wildly, hitting walls and each other. Storm used the environment, ducking behind barriers, using the vertical space. This wasn't mindless aggression. This was tactical combat, every move purposeful. The scarred leader realized too late what he faced. This wasn't a wild beast. This was a trained predator with human intelligence guiding her instincts. He tried to retreat, but Storm cut off the exit. She positioned herself between the pirates and the door, herding them deeper into the arena. 3 pirates down, 2 remaining. The leader fired his weapon directly at Storm, scoring a hit on her flank. She roared but didn't stop. Her claws found his chest and he went down hard. The last pirate, the Vaughn, raised his hands in surrender. Please, I give up. Don't let it kill me. Storm looked at Alex, waiting for the command. Alex made the signal for stop. Storm held position, her jaws inches from the pirate's face, but she didn't attack. The communicator crackled. This is Security Team 3. We've secured Section 9. Civilian group arrived safely through maintenance corridors. Who do we thank for that? Alex keyed her communicator. This is Dr. Rivers. The civilians should be safe now. But we have a situation in the arena. Send medical teams. She looked at Storm, blood dripping from the flank wound, standing guard over the surrendered pirate. The galaxy had called her a monster, had laughed at the idea of a human raising a predator. They weren't laughing anymore. The station feeds showed chaos across 12 sectors. Security teams fought running battles with pirate boarding parties. Civilians huddled in emergency shelters. The pirates weren't just raiding, they were taking over. Their leader, a brutal warlord named Garm who commanded from his ship, issued orders through hijacked communication channels. Epsilon 7 is now under new management. His voice boomed through every speaker. Resistance will be met with death. Comply and you live. Simple. Alex crouched behind an overturned cargo container in Section 6, her tablet showing security feeds. Storm pressed against her side, panting from exertion. They had left the arena 20 minutes ago, heading for the emergency shelter with the civilians. But they hadn't made it. Pirates had cut off the route, trapping 60 people in a marketplace plaza with no escape. The communicator buzzed. Commander Ford's voice was tight with stress. Rivers, where are you? We lost track of your signal. Section 6, Marketplace. We have approximately 60 civilians pinned down. Pirates blocking all exits. Stay hidden. Security teams are spread too thin. We can't reach you. How many sectors have they taken? A pause. 9 out of 20. They're pushing toward the command center. If they take that, they control life support, gravity, everything. We're running out of time. Storm rumbled, her eyes fixed on the plaza entrance. Alex counted 6 pirates visible from their position, weapons drawn, herding the frightened civilians into a tighter group. More pirates would be in the adjacent corridors, maybe 20 total, too many for security to handle even if they could get here. Alex looked at Storm. The wound on her flank had been sealed with emergency foam, not properly treated but functional. Storm was tired but not exhausted. She had fought 5 pirates in the arena. Could she handle more? Wrong question. Alex realized that wasn't what mattered. Storm could fight, but this situation needed more than fighting. It needed strategy. The pirates had the civilians surrounded. A direct assault would get people killed. They needed something else. Storm, Alex whispered, making eye contact. We need to be smart about this. She pulled up the station schematics on her tablet. The marketplace had 3 levels. Ground floor where the civilians were trapped, maintenance catwalks above and service tunnels below. The pirates controlled the ground floor and watched the main exits. But they weren't watching everywhere. Alex made a series of hand signals. Storm's ears pricked up, following each gesture. Point up, climb. Closed fist with 2 fingers, wait for signal. Open palm, stop when commanded. They moved into the service tunnel through an access hatch Alex forced open. Storm's claws scraped on metal as they navigated the tight space. Alex checked her tablet, tracking the pirates' positions through thermal imaging. They were getting cocky, laughing and threatening the civilians while they waited for orders. The service tunnel led to a vertical shaft. Storm climbed it silently, her 6 legs finding purchase on the ladder rungs and support struts. Alex followed, her muscles burning. They emerged on the catwalk level high above the marketplace floor. From this angle, Alex could see everything. The 6 pirates on the ground floor. Another 8 on the second level watching the crowd. 4 more blocking the main entrance. 18 total. The civilians huddled in the center, parents shielding children, everyone trying to stay invisible. One of the pirates, a massive creature with 4 arms and cybernetic implants, shoved an elderly man who moved too slowly. The man fell. His daughter tried to help him up and received a weapon strike for her trouble. Storm's body tensed. Alex felt the rage building in her. Storm wanted to protect. Every instinct screamed at her to attack. But Alex held up the stop signal. Not yet. She pulled a maintenance tool from a storage locker and began working on the catwalk support bolts. The platform was modular, designed for easy removal during repairs. She loosened 4 bolts on the section directly above the largest concentration of pirates. The platform creaked but held. Alex pointed to 3 different locations. Storm's eyes tracked each one. The positions formed a pattern. Isolated pirates separated from the main group. Alex made the signal for Hunt. Storm understood. Take them one by one, silent, quick. Storm moved like shadow. She dropped from the catwalk onto a support beam, then to a decorative pillar, then to the ground behind the first isolated pirate. The pirate never knew what hit him. Storm's jaws found his throat, cutting off any cry. She dragged him behind a vendor stall. The second pirate, stationed near a side corridor, turned at a sound. Storm was already moving. She hit him low, using her mass to drive him into the wall. The impact knocked him unconscious. No sound. No alarm. 3 more pirates fell in minutes. Storm used the environment perfectly. Everything Alex had taught her about observation and patience. The remaining pirates were starting to notice their missing comrades, but they didn't understand what was happening. They thought their people had wandered off. Check the perimeter, the 4-armed leader ordered. Something's wrong. 3 pirates left the main group to investigate. Storm was waiting. She had positioned herself in a blind corner, using thermal camouflage techniques Alex had never taught her. Storm was learning on her own now, adapting. The pirates walked past her hiding spot. Storm took all 3 simultaneously, her tail tripping one while her jaws caught another and her claws raked the third. Fast, efficient, controlled. She didn't kill them, just disabled them. Alex's training held even in combat. Now the remaining pirates knew. Alarms went up. Weapons came out. The 4-armed leader grabbed a civilian child, holding her in front of him as a shield. Whatever is out there, back off or the girl dies. Alex saw Storm tense. The situation had changed. They couldn't use stealth anymore. The leader had cover, hostages, and was calling for reinforcements. Alex heard boots pounding in the corridors. More pirates coming, this was the moment. Alex triggered the loosened catwalk section. The platform dropped. 20 meters of metal crashing down on the pirates positioned below. Chaos erupted. Pirates scattered. The four-armed leader's attention split between the falling debris and the threat he couldn't see. Storm didn't hesitate. She launched from her position, covering 15 meters in a single bound. Her target wasn't the leader. It was the hand holding the child. Storm's jaws clamped on his wrist, her bite force calculated perfectly. Enough pressure to make him release the girl, not enough to tear through armor and cause him to spasm and accidentally hurt the hostage. The girl fell. Alex, who had been moving during the distraction, caught her and rolled behind cover. Storm released the leader's wrist and backed away, positioning herself between him and the civilians. The remaining pirates opened fire. Storm moved through the gunfire like water, using every obstacle, every shadow. She didn't charge blindly. She flanked. She waited for reloading pauses. She struck when they were vulnerable. This was the monster the galaxy feared, but refined by human intelligence. Deadly not through mindless rage, but through perfect tactical application. The four-armed leader watched his forces fall and finally understood what he faced. This wasn't a wild beast. This was something worse. Something that thought, planned, and executed with precision. Fall back. He ordered his remaining pirates. Get to the ship. This station is cursed. They retreated, leaving their wounded behind. Storm didn't pursue. She stayed with the civilians, her body a barrier between them and any threat. Her flanks heaved with exertion, blood seeping through the emergency foam, but her stance was steady. The civilians stared at her. Minutes ago, they had whispered about the dangerous predator the foolish human was raising. Now Storm stood between them and death, protecting them without being asked. Alex emerged from cover, her hands shaking with adrenaline. She made the signal for good, for safe. Storm's tail curled in acknowledgement. Together, they led the civilians toward the evacuation route, toward safety. Above them, Garm watched through his ship's cameras, his expression dark. He had lost 18 soldiers to a single ravager cub. The assault was failing, but he wasn't done yet. If he couldn't take the station, he would make them pay for the humiliation. He would face this creature himself. Garm strode through the station corridor with the confidence of someone who had burned 20 worlds. He was twice the size of a normal Draken, enhanced with military-grade augmentations that made him nearly unstoppable. Servo muscles amplified his strength. Armor plating covered his vitals. His right arm had been replaced with a plasma cannon. He had killed security teams single-handedly. Now he wanted the Ravager. Just a trained pet, he said to his remaining soldiers. I've hunted wild Ravagers. This will be no different. Commander Ford watched him approach on the security feeds, her face grim. He's heading for Section 8. That's where Rivers evacuated the civilians. Dante checked his weapon. We need to get everyone out of there now. No time. He's moving too fast. Alex received the warning 30 seconds before Garm arrived. She was helping injured civilians board a transport shuttle when the alert came through. Storm was beside her, limping slightly but alert. The Ravager's enhanced hearing picked up the approaching threat before Alex's communicator buzzed. He's coming for you. Ford's voice crackled. Garm, the pirate warlord. He's decided to make an example. Every security team between him and your position is down. Alex looked at the shuttle. 20 civilians still waiting to board, including children and elderly. They couldn't evacuate fast enough. Storm rumbled, sensing Alex's distress. The Ravager moved toward the corridor entrance, placing herself between the threat and the vulnerable. Storm, no, Alex said. We run, we find another way. Storm didn't move. Her body language was clear. No retreat, not while others needed protection. Garm crashed through the security door like it was paper. His plasma cannon glowed, primed to fire. He stopped when he saw Storm, his augmented eyes scanning her. So you're the famous trained Ravager. Smaller than I expected. Storm held her ground low and ready. Alex positioned herself near the control panel, her mind racing. The corridor was narrow, giving Storm some advantage. Garm's size would work against him here, but his augmentations meant Storm's natural weapons might not be enough. Last chance, human, Garm said. Call off your pet and I'll let you live. I just want to prove a point. The point being, Alex asked, stalling, that no amount of human training can overcome nature. Predators belong in the wild or in cages. Your experiment ends here. He raised his plasma cannon. Storm launched before he could fire. She went low, using her smaller size to slip under his aim. Her claws found the joint in his leg armor, tearing at the servo muscles. Garm roared and brought his fist down. Storm barely dodged, the impact cracking the floor where she had been. They fought in a blur of motion. Garm used his strength and reach trying to pin Storm down. Storm used speed and intelligence, targeting weak points in his armor, staying mobile. She had learned from every fight today, adapted to each new threat. But Garm had fought ravagers before. He anticipated her moves, countered her tactics. His cannon fired. Storm twisted, taking the hit on her armored shoulder instead of her head. The blast sent her crashing into the wall. She struggled to her feet, that leg now useless. 3 legs working, 2 wounded. Still, she positioned herself between Garm and the civilians. Alex frantically worked the control panel. The corridor had emergency protocols designed to contain hull breaches. Blast doors, venting systems, fire suppression. She triggered everything she could think of. But Garm's armor protected him from each attempt. He laughed, advancing on Storm. Brave, I'll give you that. But bravery doesn't overcome reality. He grabbed Storm by the neck, lifting her off the ground. His grip tightened, servo muscles crushing. Storm thrashed but couldn't break free. Her claws scraped uselessly against his armor plating. Alex saw Storm's eyes starting to glaze. Seconds left. She looked at the control panel, at the environmental systems. One option remained. Dangerous, possibly lethal. She input the command. The corridor's atmospheric processors reversed. Instead of pushing air in, they pulled it out. Emergency decompression. The blast doors at both ends sealed automatically. Pressure dropped rapidly. Garm's armor had its own air supply, but Storm didn't. Neither did Alex. Garm realized what was happening too late. He released Storm to grab for the door controls. Storm collapsed, gasping in the thinning air. Alex felt her lungs burning, her vision narrowing. She had maybe 30 seconds of consciousness left. But the decompression did something Garm hadn't anticipated. His armor's pressure seals had been damaged during the station assault. Microfractures in the plating. Minor leaks that didn't matter in atmosphere. In vacuum, they became critical. His helmet display flashed warnings. His servo muscles started failing as pressure loss affected their hydraulics. Storm saw the opening. Even oxygen-starved and injured, she moved. Her jaws found the damaged section of his neck armor, the part his cannon arm couldn't protect. She bit down with everything she had left. The armor cracked. Garm screamed, dropping his cannon to grab at Storm. Alex hit the emergency restore button. Atmosphere flooded back in. She sucked in air, her head spinning. Storm released Garm and staggered backward. The warlord clutched his neck, his augmentations failing. He had enough strength left to raise his cannon one more time, aimed at Storm. Dante burst through the far door. Security team behind him. They opened fire simultaneously. Garm's shields were down, his armor compromised. He took 30 hits before collapsing. The silence that followed felt deafening. Storm sat on her haunches, breathing hard, bleeding from multiple wounds. The civilians in the shuttle stared through the viewport. They had watched everything. Medical teams arrived within minutes. They stabilized Storm first, working around her natural armor to treat the injuries. Alex refused treatment until Storm was secure. Commander Ford stood nearby, surveying the carnage. "The pirate fleet is retreating," Ford said quietly. When word spread that Garm was down, they lost cohesion. "We've retaken 12 sectors. The battle's over." Alex nodded, too tired to feel relief. She knelt beside Storm, placing her hand on the Ravager's head. Storm's eyes opened, focusing on her. Still protecting, still loyal. The aftermath took days to process. Station repairs, casualty reports, pirate prisoners to transport. Through it all, Storm became something else to the station's residents. They no longer saw a dangerous predator. They saw a protector who had saved hundreds of lives. The Ravager delegation returned a week later. Rask stood before Storm, examining her scars. "The trials were never completed," he said. "Technically, we could still demand her return." "Try it," Alex said flatly. She was done being diplomatic. Greth, the older Ravager, stepped forward. "We have reviewed the station's security footage. All of it, what the cub did was remarkable. Not because she fought well. Any Ravager can fight. But because she fought with purpose. She protected the weak. She showed restraint. She used intelligence alongside instinct." "That's what I've been trying to tell you," Alex said. "Yes, and we were wrong to dismiss it." Greth bowed his head slightly, a gesture of respect. "The cub has earned her place. We will not challenge your methods again. Rask looked like he wanted to argue, but Tira silenced him with a gesture. The old ways are not the only ways, she said. Perhaps this is evolution. The cub represents what our species could become. They left without Storm. For the first time since arriving on the station, Alex felt the weight lift from her shoulders. Word spread beyond Epsilon 7. Other stations, other colonies, other species heard about the human who trained a ravager. Requests came in. Could the methods work on other predator species? Could abandoned cubs be saved and rehabilitated? Could dangerous creatures become protectors instead of threats? The Galactic Council offered Alex a position. Official title, Director of Predator Rehabilitation and Training. She would establish a program, train others in her methods, change how the galaxy viewed predator species. Alex accepted. 6 months later, the station's research wing had expanded. 3 more abandoned predator cubs arrived, different species each with their own challenges. Alex worked with them all, Storm by her side. The Ravager had become her partner, helping to socialize the new arrivals, showing them what was possible. Dante stopped by occasionally, no longer scowling. Never thought I'd say this, but I was wrong about Storm. About you too. Apology accepted, Alex said, smiling. Don't get cocky. You still give me nightmares when I watch training sessions. Storm rumbled, a sound Alex had learned to recognize as amusement. The scars from the battle remained, but they had healed well. Storm was fully grown now, 3 meters tall, every bit the apex predator her species was known for. But she was also more. She was proof that predators could be partners, that nature and nurture both had value. Alex stood in her expanded lab, watching Storm interact with a new cub, a small predator from a distant world that had been found abandoned just like Storm once was. The little creature was frightened, defensive. Storm approached slowly, using signals Alex had taught her, showing patience and care. Through the viewport, aliens gathered to watch. They no longer laughed. They no longer made jokes about foolish humans and their pets. They watched in respectful silence, witnessing something they had thought impossible. A monster raised by a human, a predator given purpose, a creature of instinct taught to think. Storm represented all of it, and the galaxy was finally ready to learn what that meant. Alex made a simple hand signal. Come. Storm left the new cub and padded over, lowering her massive head so it rested against Alex's shoulder. The gesture of trust repeated thousands of times over their years together. Good girl, Alex said softly. We've come a long way, haven't we? Storm's rumble of agreement echoed through the lab. Outside, the galaxy watched and learned. The future had changed, one abandoned cub at a time, and it had started with a human who refused to let a predator die alone in the dark.